Every narcissist starts with the same test, and if you fail it, you just gave them permission to destroy you. If you've ever been in a relationship that started perfect and ended in psychological warfare, this test is why. If you've ever wondered how someone who seemed so amazing turned into a nightmare, this test is the beginning of that transformation. I'm going to reveal the exact first test narcissists use, how to spot it in real time, and most importantly, how to pass it before it's too late. The first test is called boundary violation, and it always looks innocent. Here's how it works. In the beginning, when everything feels magical, when they're love bombing you and making you feel like you finally found your person, they will test your boundaries in the smallest way possible. They'll show up unannounced and call it spontaneous. They'll go through your phone and call it caring. They'll demand to know where you are and call it love. They'll ignore your no and call it passion. The action itself isn't the test. Your reaction is the test. What they're really doing is measuring your tolerance for disrespect. They're checking if you'll enforce your boundaries or if you'll let things slide for the sake of keeping the peace. They're determining whether you're someone they can control or someone who will stand their ground. And here's the psychology that makes this so dangerous. They disguise the violation as love. When they show up at your house without asking, they frame it as, "I just missed you so much I couldn't wait." When they get jealous and possessive, they frame it as, "I just love you so much I can't stand the thought of losing you." When they push past your boundaries, they frame it as, "We're so connected, we don't need boundaries." It sounds romantic, it feels intense, and that's exactly why it works. Because you're not trained to recognize violation when it's wrapped in affection. You're not programmed to reject someone who's framing their controlling behavior as devotion. Your brain sees the words, "I love you," and ignores the action that says, "I don't respect you." So you let it go. You tell yourself you're being too sensitive. You rationalize that it's not a big deal. You convince yourself that this is just what passionate love looks like. And the narcissist takes notes. You just taught them that your boundaries are negotiable, that your no doesn't really mean no, that if they apply enough pressure wrapped in the right emotion, you'll cave. Now they know. You failed the test, and that's when phase 2 begins. Once they know your boundaries are weak, they start pushing further. The small violations become bigger ones. The occasional disrespect becomes constant disrespect. The thing you let slide once becomes the thing they do all the time. You start losing pieces of yourself without even realizing it. Your time isn't your own anymore. Your phone isn't private anymore. Your friends start disappearing because they don't like how you're being treated. Your family's concerns are dismissed as interference. And when you finally try to establish a boundary, they've already trained you out of it. They throw a tantrum. They give you the silent treatment. They threaten to leave. They make you feel guilty for having needs. They punish you for trying to protect yourself. Because you failed the first test. You showed them that boundaries don't matter. Now they're holding you to that precedent. The manipulation works because it follows a pattern called intermittent reinforcement. They condition you to accept less by occasionally giving you more. They violate your boundaries most of the time, but every once in a while they respect one. Just enough to keep you confused. Just enough to make you think maybe they're changing. Just enough to keep you hoping. But they're not changing. They're training you. Here's what most people don't understand. Narcissists don't see relationships as partnerships. They see them as power dynamics. And the first test determines who has the power. When you enforce your boundary the first time they violate it, you establish equality. You signal that this relationship operates on mutual respect. You communicate that your needs matter as much as theirs. But when you let it slide, you establish hierarchy. You signal that their wants override your needs. You communicate that keeping them happy is more important than keeping yourself safe. And narcissists are attracted to hierarchy because they only feel secure when they're on top. So how do you pass the test? You enforce the boundary the first time it's crossed, not the third time, not after you've had time to think about it, not after you've talked to your friends, the first time.
They show up unannounced? You don't let them in. You say, "I appreciate the gesture, but I need you to call first. I'm not available right now." They go through your phone? You take it back immediately. You say, "That's not okay. My phone is private. Don't do that again." They get possessive about where you are? You don't apologize or explain. You say, "I don't need to justify my whereabouts. I'll share when I'm comfortable, not when I'm interrogated." They push past your no? You leave. Physically remove yourself from the situation. Because a person who doesn't respect your no in small things won't respect it in big things. Watch what happens next. This is the revealing moment. A healthy person will apologize. They'll recognize they overstepped. They'll adjust their behavior. They'll respect your boundary going forward. Because healthy people care about your comfort more than their convenience. A narcissist will punish you. They'll make you the problem for having boundaries. They'll call you cold, distant, guarded, difficult. They'll withdraw affection. They'll make you feel like you're ruining the relationship by having standards. That's how you know. That's the difference. The boundary itself is the test, but their reaction to your enforcement is the answer key. If they respect it, you're safe. If they punish you for it, you're in danger. And you need to leave now, before you fail enough tests that leaving becomes impossible. Because here's the dark truth. The first test determines the entire relationship. Everything that comes after is built on this foundation. If the foundation is mutual respect, the relationship can be healthy. If the foundation is boundary violation, the relationship can only be toxic. Most people ignore the first test. They excuse it. They rationalize it. They think it's not important enough to make a big deal about. But narcissists never ignore it. They're paying very close attention. Because they understand what most people don't. The first test predicts everything.